Well, hello and welcome back to our channel. My name is Maria.
And I'm Leilani.
And I'm Granny Buns.
And this is a special edition
Of While Drinking Wine.
Cheers.
Always so good.
Always so good. So what we are drinking is we are drinking the Barefoot Pinot Grigio because Granny Buns is here and she loves this from, where is this from? Move Up Shelf. Exactly. It's from the Move Up Shelf. So we always drink this for her when she's here. That's right. Yes. And so what is so special about today that it is a few days before Christmas. So we figured that we would have Granny come in and actually read what story?
We are reading Frosty the Snowman.
Yay!
That's right. So we're so excited about this. And Granny will have a couple of special guest stars as well.
Yes, she will.
With her as she reads the story.
And they cannot wait. They're jumping around. They're so excited to sit with Granny and listen to this story. It's a good one.
Yes,
it's a really
it is.
Good one.
Yes, it is.
So let's get started. All right, let's go.
Okay. Hello, boys and girls. I'm Granny Buns, and I'm going to read Frosty the Snowman. And this is
Abby,
and this is,
Peyton.
and they're going to be with me while I read the story. So we're going to start with Frosty the Snowman. Okay, and it is written by Susie Capozzi. It started with the snow. It was the kind of snow that made happy people happier and giddy people giddier. It even made friends out of enemies. It was the first snow of the season, and it fell on the day before Christmas. When the first snow is also a Christmas snow, sometimes magical things abound to happen. The children at school wanted to be outside, playing in the snow. Instead, they were in the class watching a magician named Professor Hinkle to the performing magic tricks. "Messy, messy, messy," said Professor Hinkle, grumbling. His magic tricks were not working, so he threw his hat in the trash can, and luckily his rabbit Hocus Pocus rescued it. Okay, let's see what happens now. Finally, when the school day was over, the children raced outside. Now they could play in the snow. They decided to build a snowman. A little girl named Karen had the most important job. She would make the snowman's head. They gave the snowman a corncob pipe, a button nose, and 2 eyes made out of coal. He looked wonderful. Then it was time to give him a name. "How about, Frosty?" said Karen, and all the children cheered and sang a song about him. Meanwhile, Professor Hinkle was chasing Hocus Pocus. The rabbit still was in his hat. Just when Professor Hinkle thought he finally caught him, the hat flew away with a gust of winter wind. Karen caught the hat and put it on Frosty's head. Then finally, truly extraordinary happening, Frosty the Snowman opened his eyes and said, "Happy birthday!" That hat brought Frosty to life, exclaimed Karen. "It must be magic." Wow, let's see what happens. When Professor Hinkle saw how magical his hat was, he snatched it back. With the magical hat, he could become a millionaire magician. But we saw Frosty come to life, said Karen. Professor Hinkle tried to convince Karen and her friends that they were just being silly. Snowman cannot come to life, he said. But the children knew better. They knew better. So, Hocus Pocus knew better too. He switched the hat on Professor Hinkle's head to a Christmas wreath. Hocus Pocus hopped into the magical hat to the children and Frosty. "Look," cried Karen, "the hat is back. Let's see if it brings Frosty back to life again." And Karen placed the hat on Frosty's head. "Happy birthday," Frosty said. Frosty couldn't believe he could do so many things. He could make words and move. He could juggle and almost count to 10. He was even ticklish. He was alive as he could be. Grandma's getting a little thirsty. I'm going to take a little sip of wine. Okay. Soon the red in the thermometer started to rise. "Oh no," exclaimed Frosty. "When the temperature goes up, I will start to melt. And when I start to melt, I get all wishy-washy." Karen realized he needed to go to a place where he would never melt. It was decided the children would put Frosty on a train to North Pole. They made a party of it. "Let's have a parade," Frosty explained. When they finally arrived at the train station, they realized they didn't have enough money for their tickets. "No money, no tickets," shouted the ticket master. "Now I'll never get to the North Pole," Frosty said. "Oh, Frosty," cried Karen, "you just can't melt." Hocus Pocus pointed Frosty and Karen towards a little freight train that had just been outside the station. It was heading north and had a refrigerated boxcar. "What a neat way to travel," said Frosty. Karen joined Frosty on the train. Hocus Pocus hopped aboard too. They were also one more last-minute traveler, Professor Hinkle. He hid under the train so no one would see him. Uh-oh. A refrigerated boxcar is a splendid way to travel if you're a snowman or a furry-coated rabbit. But Karen, she shivered and she was sneezing. When the freight train made its brief stop, Frosty quickly got them all off the train. "Oh, you tricked me," hollered Professor Hinkle as the train pulled away with him under it. And the only thing he could do was jump. Frosty had to get away from Professor Hinkle and get Karen someplace warm as quickly as possible. He carried Karen through the woods, and she still was sneezing. It was so bitterly cold that even Hocus Pocus, a fur-coated rabbit, started to shiver. Hocus Pocus got Frosty's attention and pretended to make a fire. "Oh boy, that's one thing I really can't do," said Frosty. Guess we just better keep moving till we find someone who can. Suddenly they came upon a tiny glen. The woodland animals were busy decorating for their big Christmas celebration. Hocus Pocus spoke to the animals. He explained that Karen needed to get warmed up by a fire, and the animals were delighted to help. Mom needs a little sip. Need a little sip. Okay, now I'm not so dry. Okay. Soon there was a splendid fire crackling away. Karen warmed up quickly by the fireside. Frosty was careful to stay far away. He didn't want to melt. See, the rabbit's telling him to stay back. Stay back, Frosty. Frosty had to get Karen home, but he also needed to go to the North Pole. Suddenly, Hocus Pocus thought of something. Santa Claus, explained Frosty. That's a great idea. Hocus Pocus stayed with the woodland animals. As soon as Santa arrived, he would bring him to Frosty. Frosty waited patiently, and he was close enough to keep an eye on Karen, but far enough away from the heat of the fire so he would not melt. All of a sudden, Professor Hinkle appeared, startling Karen. "Give me that hat," demanded Professor Hinkle, and Frosty raced down the hill to save Karen. Ooh, he's a bad man. "Get away. Get on my shoulder," said Frosty. Since he was made of snow, Frosty was the fastest belly whopper in the world. He and Karen practically flew down the hillside. The professor could hardly keep up. Luckily for Karen and Frosty, they came upon a greenhouse at the bottom of the hill. Frosty carried Karen inside. He would only stay a minute before he would melt too much. But Professor Hinckley snuck up and slammed the door. "Now I've got you. The minute you're all melted, that hat will be mine," the magician shouted. Oh, he's not very nice. At that very moment, Santa arrived at the woodland glen. Hocus Pocus explained what was happening, and Santa spoke fluently to the rabbit. They quickly followed Frosty's path in the snow. When they arrived at the greenhouse, they saw a terrible sight. Karen was crying beside a puddle, and Frosty had melted. Christmas snow would never disappear completely, Santa said to Karen gently. It goes away for a year and it takes the form of spring and summer rain. But can you bet your boots when a jolly December wind kisses it, it will turn into Christmas snow all over again. Santa opened the door. Whoosh! The swirl of a magical wind turned the water back into Frosty. Just as they were about to put a magical hat on Frosty, Professor Hinkle tried to grab it away. "If you so much as lay a finger on this brim, I'll never bring you another Christmas present," declared Santa Claus. Professor Hinkle reluctantly agreed to let Frosty have the hat. Once that was all settled, there was only one thing left to do. Santa put the hat on Frosty. "Happy birthday!" Frosty explained once again. Frosty was alive. Karen was overjoyed, and the friends got into Santa's sleigh and took a flight. Santa took Karen home first, and Karen was very sad. She didn't want to say goodbye, but she knew Frosty was going to live in the North Pole and could not stay. The two friends hugged and promised to see each other next year. Every year, Frosty returned with the magical Christmas snow, and every year there was a celebration with Frosty leading the parade. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas! And that's the end.
Yay.
He got saved. He got saved.
Well, that was fun.
It was.
Yes.
Did you guys enjoy that?
Yeah.
They enjoyed it. That was a long story,
It really
but it is a
is,
great
yeah.
story.
It is
Yes,
a great
it is a
story.
great
Yes.
story.
While Granny Buns was reading that, she was drinking her favorite Barefoot Pinot Grigio from where, Granny Buns?
From the up.
The move-up shelf.
The move up
Okay.
shop. I'm sorry. I always forget. I'm getting older. Please excuse me.
It's
The
okay.
move up shop.
Yes, from the move-up
Yes.
shelf.
That is right. That is
That's
right.
right.
And it
Yes.
is very enjoyable. If you guys haven't tried it yet, I tell you this every single time. It's got a gold star on it, so it's really good.
Very, very good. Yes, yes.
Yes.
So if you like these type of videos, please consider subscribing to our channel and hit that little bell button to be notified every single time that we upload. And give us that thumbs up, because when you do that, it does tell us that you appreciate the content that we are providing. And check us out where?
On Instagram at while_drinking_wine.
That's right. And with that,
Until next time.
until next time. Cheers.
Cheers.
And Merry Christmas.
Come on in here, guys.
Come on.
And our special guest wanted to say something. What did you want to say, Abby?
Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.
And what?
Merry Christmas.